little pumpkin sitting on a gate, the first one.
Hi everyone, I'm Aunt Stacy and welcome to Calling All Kids. Today we have a special guest with us and his name is
Max.
Welcome to Calling All Kids. Today we're going to do something a little different. Besides reading a wonderful book, we're going to do a little bit of predicting. So I have a story which is not very common. Do you know a lot about unicorns?
No.
No, most people really don't. My granddaughter loves unicorns. We're going to read a book about 12 dancing unicorns. What do you think that means? 12 dancing unicorns.
Like prancing and trotting.
Prancing and trotting. Very good. Today we're going to do some predictions about this book. And since you don't have a lot of background knowledge on unicorns, we can't go on very much. What do you know about unicorns? One little thing that you know about them.
They have a horn.
Yes, they have a horn. How many horns?
One.
One, and that's what the uni stands for, one. So we're going to do some predictions. So I'm going to start our story, which was written by Elisa Hyman and illustrated by Justin Gerard. 12 dancing unicorns. So we know they have one horn. We're going to have to find more out about them. Long ago, there lived a king who was renowned for his magnificent royal gardens. They were filled with dazzling flowers, gilded walkways, and rare animals. Monkeys chattered, tigers growled, and peacocks spread their iridescent tails. But the king's most wondrous creatures were the 12 white unicorns that stood proudly behind a fence, each one attached to its own pomegranate tree by a shining golden chain. Why do you think a king would chain his beautiful unicorns?
Because, he didn't want them to get away.
Maybe
Wait,
that's true.
Why did he change them to a pomegranate tree?
Because I guess he had trees in the garden and he chained each one to a tree.
Well,
Yep.
makes sense.
That makes sense. The unicorns were wild, untamable creatures, and they would pace restlessly in the corral. The king treasured his unicorns, and he felt a kinship with their majestic, spirited natures. One thing troubled the king deeply. Every morning he would find his precious unicorns sleeping peacefully with their golden chains shattered on the ground. Every day the king's goldsmiths forged new chains to replace the broken ones. Every night the king posted his guards in the unicorn's corral to watch the creatures. But each morning the guards would report that they had seen nothing unusual. They could never explain how the unicorn's chains had been broken. So how do you think the chains got broken?
Maybe somebody let them, broke them.
So you had somebody break them. So somebody came along.
Maybe somebody came and didn't and was captive and broken.
Okay,
Broke
so
the chains to let them free.
let's see if your prediction is right. Villagers came from miles around to see the splendor of the king's unicorns. The crowds were amazed by the magical creatures who shimmered as they moved. One young girl, who visited every day, fell especially in love with the smallest unicorn, the most radiant one of all. Sometimes the little unicorn pranced over to the fence, straining at its chain. The girl was able to gently pat its velvety head through the fence and look into its sad sapphire eyes. Why is the unicorn sad?
Because it's like chained.
Yeah, he's probably all chained up. Would you like to be chained up in a corral? No. As the weeks passed, the king became so desperate to learn the truth of his unicorn's secret that he made a royal declaration. Whoever from my kingdom can solve the mystery of my unicorn's broken chains in 3 days' time will be rewarded with a gift of their choosing. At once, the little girl knew that she had to learn the magnificent unicorn's most treasured secret. She saw that the creatures were unhappy being penned up and hoped solving the mystery might allow her to help them. My lord, I can discover the unicorn's secret, the little girl told the king, stepping out from the crowd. Some of the villagers laughed, but the king looked at her and said, You make a bold claim, but how can you, a mere child, discover what my brave guards cannot? This is a challenge for someone far beyond your years. Will the little girl solve the problem, do you think? Will she solve this mystery? All right.
I also think I know what she would ask for.
How do you think she's going to solve the mystery?
Um,
How do you think she's going to find out how they break their chains?
She's gonna since the dragon, the little one likes it, she might follow it around and it'll show her it.
Okay, so she's going to follow the little unicorn. All right, let's see how your prediction is coming. So there she is with the king. She's going to try to solve this mystery. The girl's mother took her by the hand and led her away. But despite the king's words, the girl was determined to find out what the unicorns were hiding. At home that night, the little girl's mother gave her a magical cloak made from gossamer. It was as sheer and delicate as butterfly wings. This cloak was given to me a long time ago by an old woman who I helped in the forest. The girl's mother explained. She told me to save it for a very important occasion, so I want you to have it now. Wear it to the royal castle, and you will be invisible. What do you think the little girl could do with this cloak?
She could go to the unicorns and become invisible and then watch them.
And then watch them. What do you think they might be doing?
The unicorns?
Yeah.
Maybe they would use the horns, or each other would help each other.
So they're going to use horns to do what?
Like break the chains.
So they're going to use their horns to break the chains. And what else do you think the unicorns can do?
Use the magic.
Use magic. And what would their magic do?
Maybe break the chains.
Let's see what this little girl can do to try to solve our mystery. And I hope our audience is trying to figure it out too, because not often do we have stories about unicorns. The girl kissed her mother, put on the cloak, and ran back to the royal gardens as the moon rose high above the castle walls. The girl quietly slipped between the slats of the fence. Just as they did every night, the king's guards stood at their post inside the unicorn's corral. The unicorns paced as far as their golden chains would let them, their long white necks straining against their bindings. The girl crouched down and watched. How come the guards never see what happens with the unicorns?
Maybe because they're not paying attention, or the unicorns distract them.
Maybe. What else could make the guards so they're not doing their jobs anymore? They're supposed to be watching those unicorns.
Magic,
Maybe some magic.
like magic to like create something to distract them.
All right, let's see. At the first stroke of midnight, the unicorns turned to the guards and stood very still. They lowered their heads and gave one shake of their enchanted silver horns. Ooh, you had a little bit about using their horns. The guards froze as if they had turned to stone. Then, when the clock tower struck 12, the golden chains that bound the magnificent creatures shattered like splittering ice. How did the chains break? What made?
I don't know.
Listen again. As it stroke of midnight.
Midnight.
At midnight. And what made the chains break? Think about it. You were right with magic. What was the magic from?
The horns.
The horns. So look at, you wrote down horns, you wrote down magic. Your predictions are coming true pretty well. You must know a lot more about unicorns than you think. So now she's watching all this. Under a crescent moon, the unicorns began to dig a large hole in the middle of the corral with their powerful hoofs. Then, one by one, each unicorn pranced into the tunnel and disappeared. The smaller unicorn was the last to go. It turned and looked in the girl's direction before disappearing down the hole. What do you think these unicorns be doing down this hole?
Like celebrating?
They
or
could
dancing?
And dancing. And why did you think of dancing?
The title.
Because the title. Very good. Now, how come the unicorns are looking in the direction of the little girl? Why aren't they looking at the little girl?
Because they can't see her.
That's right. And what's covering her up?
The cloak.
The magic cloak. The little girl couldn't believe her eyes. Hidden by the magic cloak, the girl followed the unicorns down the tunnel. And didn't you say follow the little unicorn? What a good predictor you are. And here she is. Look at some animals, the fairies. At the bottom, there was a beautiful glade surrounded by trees. Do you know what a glade is?
Like the hills and everything?
Yep, hills and valleys. And it's surrounded by trees. Twinkling from the tree branches were plums made of amethyst.
What?
Do you know what an amethyst is?
Yeah.
It's what?
I bet stone.
It's a birthstone, right? And it's a stone. So you have beautiful plums that are actually made out of a beautiful, precious stone. Tree branches with plums of amethyst. Nearby, a waterfall flowed into a silvery pool with golden flowers sparkling in the grass. The girl plucked a plum as a token for the king, proof of this enchanted world, and put it in her cloak pocket. So why'd the little girl take one of the plums?
So she can show the king that she has proof.
That's right. Do you think somebody would believe you if you said I went down into a hole to a magic garden with amethyst plums?
No.
No. So now the little girl has proof. To her amazement, 11 fairies in beautiful gowns flew out of the woods. They fed the unicorns amethyst plums. There go the plums.
How do they eat them?
I don't know. That's a good question. How do you think they could eat them?
Well, they have teeth, like big teeth, but I doubt that they could crush stone.
But maybe what else could make them so they actually could eat them?
The horns?
Maybe. Do you think they have some magic to make them turn back into delicious plums? Because do you think you'd want to eat a rock?
No.
No. So that's a good mystery for us to try to figure out, how they turn those plums into something they could eat. They brought water from the waterfall for them to drink and braided flowers into their manes. Hear those plums made of amethyst. Then the fairies fluttered onto the backs of all but the smallest unicorn. The creatures began swaying and swirling in the moonlight, faster and faster, prancing and leaping, dashing and twirling. The little girl gasped in surprise. The unicorns were dancing. And who is on? All the unicorns except for one. Who's dancing with them?
The girl?
The little girl is there, but there was something dancing with each of the unicorns.
Oh, the fairies.
The fairies. So each unicorn, except the little one, had a fairy. So what is the little unicorn going to do if he doesn't have a fairy? Who's going to dance on the little unicorn?
The girl.
Let's see what happens if you're right. What do you think she's going to do next?
She's going to like get on the back of it.
All right. And what's she going to do with the unicorn, do you think?
Like, tell it to dance or something.
Tell it to dance? Then the fairies fluttered onto the backs of all but the smallest unicorn. And here now is the little girl. As they moved, a symphony of horns and trumpets and tinkling bells filled the enchanted forest. The magical animals whirled by the invisible girl, all except the littlest unicorn, who paused and knelt before her. Without hesitation, the girl jumped onto its back and lost herself in the wild joy of the unicorn's dance. The unicorn. How did the unicorn know where to stop? Because the unicorn stopped the littlest one. All the other ones are dancing with the fairies. What do you think made this unicorn stop?
He felt the presence.
Maybe he felt the presence of the little girl. You're doing an awful lot of good thinking here. When the first rose light of dawn crept across the sky, the 12 unicorns left the enchanted glade and trotted under the amethyst plum trees, through the tunnel, and back up into the king's corral. The little girl followed silently behind, and then the unicorns pawed the loose earth back into place, completely covering the hole. Why did they cover the hole up?
So they can't figure out how they got free or anything.
All right, let's see. All but the smallest unicorn settled down to rest. Instead, it turned to the girl and shook its silver mane. She nodded back, and then it too settled down. The girl slipped past the guards, who were still under the unicorn's spell. Did the guards see any of this happening?
No.
No. Do you think they ever will see any of this happening?
No.
The next night, the girl put on her magic cloak and returned to the royal gardens. So how many times has she gone to the garden now?
2.
2. And how many times did the king say? How many days did the king say she had to?
3.
3. This time when she followed the unicorns into the glade, the trees were heavy with giant ruby cherries. She put some in her pocket. Why is she saving the ruby cherries?
So she can show more proof.
More proof. Then the girl fed and brushed the smallest unicorn herself. When it was time to dance, she again climbed onto its back. The dancing was even faster than the night before, the dashing and whirling even wilder. On the third night, the trees were bursting with golden apples, and the girl slid one into her pocket. Can you name the 3 objects that the little girl has claimed so far?
The golden apples.
Yep.
The ruby, cherries, and the amethyst plums.
Excellent. She fed some fruit to the smaller unicorn, combed its flowing mane, and made flower garlands for its head. And then the little girl danced with the beautiful creatures, leaping through the multicolored sky atop her unicorn. On her way back to the castle, the girl's magic cloak must have slipped a little from her shoulders. To her surprise, a fairy approached her and whispered in her ear. What do you think a fairy might be saying to her?
Put your cloak up.
Maybe put your cloak back up, because what was the cloak protecting her from?
The god.
Let's see if you're right. This glade is the source of unicorns' power. Without the jeweled fruit and cascading water, their magic will weaken and fade. If the unicorns don't have their fruit and their water, no magic, what will happen to them?
The people will figure out.
And what could happen to them if they don't have nourishment and magic?
They might die.
They might die. Uh-oh. The unicorns will wither away unless they are set free. Any human who helps them is allowed to enter this world, which is why you can be here. What do you think she might do now? What could she do now?
When she gets to choose the reward, she'll choose all of the unicorns to set them free.
Okay, so you kind of jumped ahead. But what do you think she's going to do now?
I think
she's found 3 objects.
She's gonna take it back to the castle and prove and tell the king.
Okay. Let's see if he believes her. When she returned to the king's corral on that 3rd night, the little girl was so weary and sad that she lay down on the ground and fell asleep. The smallest unicorn lay beside her, its head in her lap. And that's how the king found them, when he checked on his unicorns in the morning. So did she go to the king?
No.
How did she meet the king?
In the corral.
And he came to her, actually. Awakened by the king's arrival, the girl threw off her cloak. I know the secret of the unicorns, my lord. She told the king the whole story and showed him the jeweled fruit. These are remarkable. This fruit is as rare as my magnificent unicorns and must have come from a magical place. The king turned to the girl. Well, young lady, you have discovered the secret. What would you like as your reward? And now that we're back to this, what do you think she wants as her reward?
To set them free.
You are a great predictor. I would like you to set all 12 unicorns free, she announced. Awesome job. Do you think the audience would like all of them to be set free? I cannot possibly do that, the king said, looking at his prized creatures. Having them is my greatest pleasure. But without the enchanted forest, the unicorns will weaken and die, the little girl explained. If you help them now, you may visit them there. The king lowered his eyes. Then he looked again at his magnificent unicorns. He knew what he had to do. The king ordered his guards to remove the unicorns' golden chains. The magical creatures tossed their proud white manes, dug a deep hole in the ground, and disappeared. All except the smallest unicorn, who trotted over to the little girl. Perhaps this unicorn is strong enough to live in our world as long as it returns underground every night, said the king. Love is a powerful magic. Why does he say love is a powerful magic?
Because, like, it can, it's like, it can propel, like, tell people to, like, it can, like, propel people to, like, stay there.
Maybe.
Because they like each other.
And she loves that little unicorn, doesn't she? Would you like to stay with your special friend, the king added? More than anything, said the girl. And so it was decided that the smallest unicorn would live with the girl. Wherever they went, the little girl rode on the back of the prancing unicorn, with the delightful sounds of horns and trumpets and tinkling bells filling her ears. And every night in the enchanted glade, the girl, the king, and the fairies whirled and twirled in the moonlight with the 12 dancing unicorns. So how did you do with your predictions?
Good.
You did very good. And so now, what are they going to do with their 12 dancing unicorns every night?
Put them all except for one.
What are they going to do?
What?
What are they going to do with their 12 prancing unicorns every night?
Go down and like dance.
And go down and dance and join them. How does the little girl feel now?
Happy.
She's very happy. And I think you should be very happy because your predictions were right on key. Excellent job.
Number one.
Right. You thought the people were going to break them. What actually made them break?
The magic.
The magic. So I hope everybody enjoyed this different kind of story because we don't usually read about unicorns. We don't have unicorns around to learn from. So you had to use your imagination and your good prediction skills so you could figure out your story. Congratulations, you did a great job, Max. So I hope everybody would go to the Ashland Library. This is one of the delightful books that they have. And read more about our 12 dancing unicorns. Thank you much for joining Calling All Kids, and we hope to see you in the next show. Want to say goodbye?
Bye.
Bye. Hope you enjoyed our wonderful story. Thank you.
Five little pumpkins sitting on a gate.